Hello YouTube, this is Marauders here, and this is the 8BitDo Lite. So what this basically is that it's an ultra compact controller. So instead of something like this, you get a thin little controller like this. And when we say this is a fully featured controller because it basically has a bumper, the bumpers and the triggers, your 4-face buttons, your D-pad from a normal controller, your start and select buttons, and of course, because this is a Switch controller, you have your home and your snapshot buttons. And the most important thing is that in place of the 2 analog sticks, you get 2 D-pads. So this is basically a super compact and ultimately very weird and interesting controller. Now, first of all, let's demonstrate how the D-pads work. The sticks. I shouldn't even call them D-pads. These are basically sticks. So let's go into the Switch control stick settings tool. So this is where you can test the control sticks. Now, the interesting thing here is that these thumbsticks actually press down just like a real analog thumbstick. So now I'm testing the left analog stick. So basically, it just works like a joystick, but notice that it will hit the immediate extents immediately. So there's no way, you cannot do any precise movements with it. And then same thing with the right stick. So essentially, it's just a very nice, very simple controller. Now, one thing that people were complaining about this particular controller is that, wow, I bought a compact controller and I get 2 D-pads, but because they're all mapped to the analog sticks, when I actually need to play a game with that only supports the D-pad instead of the analog sticks, I have to use the split buttons again, so that's not a very good experience. So what the 8BitDo did was, so let's go to the test controller buttons. So now you see that when I press left, right, up, down, so this is the D-pad. So what 8BitDo did with the latest firmware update is, if you press the left and the select button together, so I'm going to press the select and then the left, you just hold it for a few seconds. And you see the indicator light flashed a little bit. So now what that did was, this left controller, calling it D-pad is very weird. This left controller stick is now the D-pad. Okay, so you can actually swap the D-pad between the actual physical looking D-pad and the split. So now you can see pressing these splits don't do anything. And if I go back to the controller tester, and these now control the analog stick. So that's a nice touch to have, because that was one of the things that a lot of people were complaining about. Generally, that the fact that the D-pad wasn't these, and it will make it like they can't actually play certain games properly. So now that you have the option to switch the D-pad and the analog stick around, I'm sure some people would like that. Other things is that this thing doesn't have motion controls, doesn't have rumble, obviously doesn't have amiibo functionality. But the interesting thing here is that you can switch it between switch mode and X input mode. So you can switch it to X input mode and you can connect it to your PC, and it will look like a normal Xbox 360 controller or an X input controller. And you can also do it using wired mode as well. The other nice thing that it has is that the Bluetooth profile for both Xbox mode and Switch mode, they're separate. So you can link this controller to your Switch, and you can link it to your PC in Xbox mode, and you don't have to repair it every time you switch it around. So that's pretty nice. One thing though, in case you're wondering, even if though you're in Xbox mode, the A, B, X, Y buttons are still laid out like the Xbox. So your A button will be here, B button here, X and Y. So yeah, just because you switch it to Xbox mode, it's not gonna reorient the buttons around. Okay, let's talk about how practical this controller is. So the first thing is, of course, because this is such a thin, small controller, this isn't the most comfortable to use. Okay, after using it for maybe 30 minutes or an hour, your hands are definitely going to feel cramped because you're just holding a small thin little plate like this. And then the other thing is, you have to remember that because the analog sticks are mapped to this D-pad, so you can't make precise movements. Okay, so the dot is where the game is going to read your control. So you can't make precise movements. What do I mean by precise movements? So let's say we have a normal analog stick here. So you can see we can carefully move the thing around, and that's what you want in especially FPSs. You want to be able to aim slowly or aim fast, and you want to aim in all the directions, so you want to be able to like carve out the whole region. And obviously you can't do that with a digital controller, so that's very bad. This thing is really not very good for FPS games. It'll probably work great for games like Street Fighter or platform games or pretty much anything that's like 2D where you're locked into a plane of movement. So that should be fine. It's just like whenever you need any real exact movements, this isn't going to be a great controller to use. The other main reason why this is a really bad controller to use in FPS is that this is just the main complaint that I have with this controller. And that's the fact that if you're moving forward, if you're moving on the D-pad, and then when you're playing an FPS, what you want to do is you want to move and you want to run. It's really hard to move in a direction and press down the thumbstick as well. That's because the thumbstick button is in the middle while the direction buttons are at the side. So you must, in order to like move and press the thumbstick, it's really hard, really inconvenient. I was trying it in a few games. It's very hard to do. Maybe you might be able to get it done once or twice, but really not intuitive. So yeah, that's not the most practical thing to do. Okay, so the 8BitDo Lite, even though it works like a real controller, we've established that you can't exactly use this for every single game. So especially like if you're a very heavy FPS player or something. So why did 8BitDo even make this? Who is this for? Well, that's an interesting question. So, see, this is the bag I use for work, okay? So when I go to work daily, in my day-to-day, my actual day job, this is the bag I use. Now, because I would love to be able to play some games on my downtime, on my nice little Acer Helios 300. Let's say I want to carry a controller with me. I couldn't actually take this because inside my bag is a bunch of cables and everything, and this is pretty big. If I drop it in, I might pinch the thumbsticks. So it's something I'm very worried about. That's why I don't carry, I can't really carry a large scale controller in the bag. Even a thin one like this, well, while this is small, but again, there are thumbsticks here, and those really get in the way. When you start throwing things in the bag with your adapters and your cables, these thumbsticks really get in the way. But hey, look! With the 8BitDo Lite, I can just open up this small little compartment here where I throw my battery, power bank and everything. Pop it in. And wow, I'm ready to go for, I can play a bunch of stuff like Dead Cells, various other platforming games and whatnot. And it just fits in my bag and it works via Bluetooth. Does that mean that 8BitDo made a controller for people like me who just wants to be able to carry a simple compact controller with them so that they might be able to play games whenever they feel like it? Makes you wonder, right? Well, so I don't know whether whether the 8BitDo Lite is a good controller for you, but to me, this is a great controller that, well, it's a nice to have. I can just throw it in my bag and use it whenever I feel like it. So yeah, it's great. To me, this is a nice niche little product. Okay? Thanks for the updates, 8BitDo. Oh, no, 8BitDo didn't actually give it to me. I meant as thanks for actually making this controller. Okay, cool. So this is Marauders. I'll see you on the next video.
Bye.